and welcome back, everyone. In this lesson, what we're going to do is to create basically our final core mechanic. Because right now, if we run the game, our snake cannot destroy itself, right? So we just kept building and growing till we just keep growing, and we can't even run into ourselves. I believe I'm not even that big yet. Yeah. So if I actually do this, I'm actually running into myself, and that's not good. We just want a situation where we can actually do that. So let's do that. So and yeah, and our main goal is to the way we're going to do this is to check if our head position matches with any other position of the snake. If this is true, that means the head's position and the other section of the body are colliding. That means we're hitting each other. So let's go ahead and create a function to do that. And we'll also modify and update any other section. So as always, since we're going to be always checking if the head of the snake has collided with the body, it makes sense for us to do that in the update function. So here, and again, I actually showed you the trick to quickly check for a function. Just hit Control F and then search for update like that. And we're actually here. So we're in update snake, but that's not the update function we're looking for, right? So we can do it properly. We can say underscore update this one, and here we could just jump there. So Control F is going to let you quickly jump there. So we want to check our self collision, and just where we have our food collision, it's just nice to keep things organized. So I'm just going to create a function called check underscore self collision. I need to spell this properly. Excuse me. So what I'm just doing here, I'm actually calling a function I have not created yet. So the proper word to use is to call a function. The function is not existing yet because if I save and run, we're going to get an error. It says attempt to call global check self collision, which is a nil value. It means that does not exist. So let's keep moving. So what we want to do on our check self collision, and let's just go down and do that just after our other collision function. So let's hit Control F and let's check for our check food collision like that. So just after our check food collision, this is where I want to do that. So I'm just going to create a comment and say check self collision. And let's create the function called check self collision like that. And let's end this. If we save this and run, we should be good. We're not getting that error happening anymore. All right, that's great. So what do we want to do in our check self collision? So like I said, we want to check if our snake segment is with our body segment. If you're the same plane, then we're going to call our game over. So to do that, let's first get a reference to the snake's initial head position, which I've been doing. So we're going to say local head is going to be equal to the first element that has been created in our snake table, which is 1. So the first one. All right. So now we're going to use a for loop to loop through the segments. And to do that, I'm going to say, let's just make this, give a little space here and go back up. And here I'm going to use a for loop to iterate or loop over segments. So I'm just going to say for I equals 2, comma, the length of our snake. So I want to do, so we're going to create a local segment, which is going to be our snake. And then the position we're going to be looping through is going to be I. So I've created a snake segment here, I, that is going to loop through the number of elements that are in the snake table. So as long as this keeps, growing, we're always going to have a segment. So now what we want to do is to check if our X position of the head is equal to the segment, X position of the segment. And we'll do the same thing for the Y. Then if both conditions are true, then we're going to run game over. All right, so to do that, we're going to say if our head dot X is equal to, is the same as the segment dot X, and the head dot Y is the same as the segment dot Y, then we want to call game over. So I'll just say game over equals true. And what we want to do is to escape this code. So we're going to say return. So it's going to stop checking. And what we'll do from here is to close our, let's just pick up this space. I'll just select this space and hit return key. Now we have an if statement. We need to end that if. We have our for loop. We need to end the for loop. And then finally, we have our check self collision function, which we are ending here. So that's why we have 3 nested statements here. All right, so let's go ahead and save that. Let's run. So here we have our warp mode on, and then we'll just play the game and make sure we're big enough to destroy ourselves and see if that's going to work. So let's, oops, so that's it. So even if I have warp mode on, I can still destroy myself, and I can just start the game by hitting the return key. All right, so that's a good mechanic. Let's just go ahead and see what we just did right there. All right. So firstly, we get the snake head, right? With snake 1. This is our snake head. I just say SNK HD snake head. Or it's good to just use the full description since it's a comment. So we're going to loop through other segments here. So we're starting with I equals 2, bow down to the number of elements in the array. So if any of these segments has the same X and Y, that means we're colliding. That means we're going to set game over to true. So if we actually have the same segments, it means, hey, the body is not part of the head. So again, I actually started from I equals 2. What didn't I start from I equals 1, right? Because if I start from I equals 1, that's the first snake segment here. That means it will always collide with itself and it's going to be game over. Let's set this to 1 and run. And automatically, once we start that, we'll just hit the game over. I'm trying to let's just hit Control R again. And it's actually starting. So let's set this to 2. And just like that, we've actually done that. Now, the reason why we're also doing this is because this is actually fast, right? And the snake doesn't really get very extremely long. So it's actually good for us to do this. All right. So now we actually have a snake that grows normally when it's eating food. We have our game over logic. We can toggle between warp mode and we can toggle between our, normal mode. And yeah, so let's see how we can improve this by adding like a start menu where we can have our play again option, our game over, just to make it look like a polished. Okay, we'll do that in the next lesson. And before we move on, I'll just save this. I'll just clear the screen and save as SAVE 05 underscore self underscore collision. All right. See you guys in the next lesson where we'll polish and add a nice little menu that will make it look more pro.